Welcome to the Half-Blood Report.
Here we discuss Percy Jackson news, interviews, and all things Riordan. I'm Samuel, your co-host.
And I'm Diego, your other co-host.
So, Diego, what were you doing Riordan related this week?
Yeah, so this week, Riordan related, I was reading a book recommended by C.S.E. Cooney on Irish mythology, the Book of Three, which is the first book in the I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but it's Prydain Chronicles, and they're kind of about this imaginary world based kind of off of Wales, and they incorporate like elements of Welsh mythology into this kind of a series. And I finished the first book this week, and then I kind of moved on to the second one and finished that one as well. And I picked these up at the local library, and they were actually like surprisingly entertaining. Like for some reason, like don't get me wrong, but like sometimes like research for this podcast isn't like super entertaining. But this was actually pretty interesting.
That's cool. Yeah, speaking of research for this podcast not being super entertaining, this week was definitely different. So yeah, we're planning to do an episode on Irish mythology, because that is going to be Rick Riordan's next series. So I was like, hey, read this thing based on Celtic mythology, Diego. And then I guess you're enjoying it. So maybe I'll read it. I'm not sure. So yeah, that'll be coming up sometime in the future.
Yeah, definitely look out for that, guys.
And can I just say, while we're on the subject of episodes coming out in the future, like a couple minutes into podcast, let's just say a special episode is going to be released on Wednesday, July 15th, because that is our podcast 1 year's anniversary. That right that date. So right on that day, we're going to be releasing a special episode to, kind of celebrate that. So yeah, be on the lookout for that one.
Yeah, one whole entire year.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
We never skipped 2 months or
Yep. No.
12 weeks.
No. Yeah, 12 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That never happened. What are you talking about?
I guess what I did Riordan related.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Oh, so Riordan related this week. I finally finished reading The Lost Hero to my sister. She was the thing that was funny to me was when I originally read The Lost Hero, I had like no idea where Percy was, and it just kind of like I was really stupid and I didn't get it. So then at the end, I was like, "Wow, plot twist! I can't believe Percy's at the other camp and he doesn't remember who he is." My sister, she actually had a theory that Percy was going to be with Hera the whole time, and when they went to save Hera, Percy was going to be there. So when that didn't happen, she wasn't like she was kind of disappointed, but like the thing to her wasn't like, wow, he's at the other camp. She was like, oh, so I guess he wasn't with Hera. That's annoying. It was just, I was just like, but no, you have to acknowledge it's a great line. And yeah, she was like, whatever, let's start reading the next one. So that's what I did Reorder related this week.
Lost Hero, meh.
Yeah, that's a feeling.
I think Vero should write Rick an email or a tweet or something and just be like, "Hey Rick, by the way, the fact that Percy wasn't with Hera, 2 stars."
Well, that would have if Percy had been with Hera, we never would have gotten the Son of Neptune, which is the
and the
best.
Son of Neptune is the best book of the Heroes of Olympus.
I personally, it's Rick Riordan's best book in my opinion, but
you would go so far as to say that.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. It's a very good book. I definitely think it's in top 3.
Yeah,
but I'm just not sure if I want to go ahead and say it's my favorite book this early in our podcasting career.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna say it's my favorite book. I mean, it is. I'm not saying like it is the only best book of all of Rick Riordan. If you disagree, you're a bad person. Like, no, but I'm just saying.
Different opinion.
To me, it's his. Yeah, I hate people who disagree with me. Oh,
yeah.
Go to Hades. So let's jump into the Demigod news.
First up in the Demigod news is actually something very exciting that we were kind of looking forward to is Rick Riordan, Kwame Mbalia, Carlos Hernandez, Sarwat Chada, Yuhan Lee, and Teklar K Mahija will all be playing a D&D one shot together. So that's pretty dope. I think when I was at the Boscone Festival, Carlos had mentioned that he, Kwame, and Sarwat had like been wanting to play D&D forever together with Rick, and apparently they made it happen.
Yeah, so July 18th, they're gonna be playing D&D, on Twitch. There's gonna be a link and more details in the description. But yeah, so Rick Riordan and like four Rick Riordan presents or five Rick Riordan presents authors are going to be playing D&D together, and I just
I'm excited to see how this will pan out. This is gonna be crazy.
yeah, I can't wait. And it's to support charity, so that's cool.
That's pretty great.
And Rick Riordan, he got into writing for D&D, he says, because Dungeons and Dragons is like kind of the original fan fiction. Well, no, the original fan fiction is like from Mesopotamian mythology, but like it's fan fiction of basically Lord of the Rings. So and that was, he says, what got him into writing. So, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, next up on Demigod News is actually something pretty cool, Samuel.
Yeah, yeah. It's been announced JC Cervantes is going to be writing a spin-off series of The Stormrunner focusing on the character Ren Santiago from the Storm or from the Firekeeper, I guess, but from the Stormrunner trilogy. And it's going to be a two like a duology. The first book is going to be called Throne of Sand, and it's coming out in 2021. Ren Santiago, a shadow bruja, discovers that some rogue godborns have joined forces to make themselves into gods, and she must unite with her friends to defeat them in a time race as they search for a lost key that unlocks the legendary Aztec land of Aztlan. Publication will begin in 2021. Blah 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 blah.
Blah blah
Yeah,
blah 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 blah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm super excited. Ryan might be one of the most interesting characters from
Yeah,
the
definitely,
last
definitely.
series. So, and also Godborns trying to turn themselves into gods. That's just gotta be interested in that. So,
Yeah, I mean, like, there's no way that you can be like any kind of like Stormrunner fan and not wanna read that.
especially because I'm so interested to see what happens to Ren in the Shadow Crosser. So, like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
because
gonna definitely gonna be building off of that.
we have no idea. Like we've done a couple of predictions and stuff, but definitely Ren was one of the coolest characters from the Firekeeper. So I'm curious to see like what her little spin-off series will be about and whether it'll be like forward in time or I assume it'll be forward in time, right?
Yeah, because I don't think they've already kind
Yeah.
of established her backstory. So, and also she didn't know that much when she came to Zane. So it'd be a little weird if she was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't. Even though I was like, I had no idea about my powers. I did kind of go on this side quest with a bunch of people. Like, so
Yeah. That happens.
probably gonna take place after the Shadow Crosser. Maybe it takes place between the Firekeeper and the Shadow Crosser. It can really depend.
Perhaps.
Yeah, but it's cool.
Definitely cool.
Yeah. So you can look forward to the episode coming very far in the future where we make predictions on that book.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be for a long time. At least not until after the Shadow Crosser that we can like make predictions for this series that we know close to nothing about.
Mhm. Yeah, kind of approaching the sort of the main thing we're gonna be talking about in an episode. Two great things on Paola Santiago have been released this week. First up, we got a sneak peek of the first two chapters, and that's on Reed Riordan. So,
Definitely go check that out.
Diego, what did you think of the first two chapters?
So yeah, I like. Of course, we're gonna talk about this more in depth later. But I kind of like really like the dynamic, how you could kind of like get a lot of like you could kind of like foresee a lot of things from just the first two chapters, which was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I loved it, and it was just like I just loved getting to know the voice of the character. I want to reread it because it just felt like a very new voice to me. I've read Tehlar's other two books, and they're really good. And it was just so surprising to me how, with so much ease, Tehler was able to sort of transition between the sort of young adult series to this middle grade. I finished it and I was like, wait a second. I read this author and I didn't even like get any of the same vibes, which is just so interesting how she was just so able to. I want to reread it to see like the sort of little thing that kind of makes me think of her other books, but it just made me sort of like, wow, it's just like so great how it's just sort of a different type of book, and I'm loving it. And I just can't wait to read the book, and I can't wait to, try to notice things from We Set the Dark on Fire. Yeah, and I wanted to say something else. I don't know.
I mean, I personally really liked it. I have not myself read Tekler's other books, but I really liked what we
Cuz he's a
saw in the
loser.
movies.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, jeez. I haven't gotten around to it. Like I really wanted to, and then I never did, and I was like, ah.
Kind of smaller news, but we got some character art for one of the characters, Dante. Looks pretty good. Definitely not what I imagined. I imagined this like cool soccer kid who was like, he's like leaving the friend group because he wants to be a cool soccer kid. This one,
Yeah.
he's just like looking very scared at a magical chancleta. So that's
Are we sure that's magical?
well. Do you want to transition to the next section?
Yeah, I guess sure. But yeah, no, cool character art and a little bit of a description. I think it's time to consult the oracle.
The section in which we look at the source mythology to make predictions on a future Rick Riordan or Rick Riordan Presents book.
Yeah. So, and this week we chose to look at Paola Santiago, seeing as we got a sneak peek, some character art, and it's kind of something that's coming up. So you can definitely look for more Paola Santiago stuff as we get closer. Some last predictions, stuff like that. But this will definitely be one where we kind of try to break down the information that we have as of now.
Yeah. So I think usually we start off the section by reading the description. We already did that all the way back in episode 6. So we started getting actually reviews for Paola Santiago. So I'm going to read the reviews given by some authors, and then I'm going to read an excerpt from a sort of longer review. Okay.
All right, sure thing. Go ahead.
This is a review given by Carlos Hernandez, of course, author of Sal and Gabby. Mhm. Mejia pulls no punches in showing us the monsters, whether fantastic or all too real, that children who live on the border between two cultures face every day. Even better, she gives readers the tremendous gift of a third way, one that shows us science and folklore aren't enemies, but rather allies, and that reason and myth are strongest when they work together. Carlos Hernandez. That's a really great review that kind of gives us some really good ideas about, the feel of the book and sort of the themes of it. This one is from J.C. Cervantes, obviously author of the Stormrunner trilogy. A clever, twisty, imaginative take on the ever spooky folktale La Llorona, filled with love and fear and courage. Readers will delight. And so that's from J.C. Cervantes. And lastly, this is from Kaysen Calendar, another great author. And this one says Paola Santiago and the River of Tears has the perfect blend of action, heart, and honesty in showing a painful world that most young readers will already recognize and proving the perfect amount of hope that they will survive and thrive. Kaysen Calendar. And so those are some great reviews by really good authors. And then this is sort of a review from Shelf Awareness. There's a link to this review actually in the description because this review is kind of going to be the meat of what I'm making predictions in. And it's kind of a longer review, so I'm going to only read a sort of excerpt from it. But the thing that is really good about this review, some reviews are like, this is a really good book with great themes that you should buy. Some reviews tell you a lot about the plot before telling you it's a really good book that you should buy. So that's what's so great about this review. It doesn't really give us any spoiler stuff, but I don't think people who are listening even care about that. They just want to know what's going to happen in this book. So I'm going to read a little thing from this. Paola is part of an inseparable trio that includes the more affluent Emma Lockwood as well as Dante Mata, her next door neighbor and possible crush. When Emma misses their stargazing meetup at the Gila River one evening and the authorities don't take their hunch that something's wrong seriously, Paola and Dante resolve to find her in the Arizona desert. Things start to get weird when Dante's grandmother arms them with a magical chancla, house slipper, shopping bags, and Florida water. One by one, Paola comes face to face with all of the legends that her overprotective but flighty mother taught her about. Chupacabras, La Mano Pachona, and La Llorona herself, the ghost of a woman who murdered her children and was cursed to wander the riverbanks for eternity in search of their bodies and looking for her next victim. But Paola's quest to save Emma keeps pushing her forward. The pair meet an army of lost children who have been fighting off the mystical monsters, reunite with a classmate who supposedly drowned in the river the year before, and are guided by a sarcastic, ghostly girl who might have ulterior motives for helping them. And it goes on to talk about some of the great themes of the book and some other things that are going to happen in the plot. So, yeah, I think that's a really great review of the book, but also really great because it gives us a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
First up, I would be amiss if I didn't talk about this first. All right, we did something great, Diego. You know what we did?
What?
All the way back in November, we did an episode about Paola Santiago. The only thing we knew about the book is that it would take place with La Llorona and, something about Paola Santiago who really likes space, all right? And you know what someone said? Listen to this.
So I would love to see the appearance of the Chupacabra, which, for those of you that don't know, is a kind of folktale or legend of an animal that goes around eating sheeps and sucking their blood. So that would be like my personal uh, little thing that I would want from the book. Oh. I'm a genius. That's all I'm gonna say. My brain is just literally too dry. Remember that one time that I was like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if Rick Riordan wrote a series about Irish mythology? It happened. Remember that one time that I was like, wouldn't it be funny if the Chupacabra appeared in Paula Santiago? Remember that one time that I was like,
Well, you you
wouldn't
you
it be
didn't
like,
say you didn't say it would be funny. You said it would be cool.
I know, okay, whatever. Basically, the thing is, I can predict the future because my knowledge expands through the cosmos and into the future.
Or you're just a good at making educated guesses. That's probably why.
Educated guesses, whatever. Shh, shh, Samuel.
I did some research on the Chupacabra, obviously, because it is the game winner that won me that one board game. But
Exactly.
so its name literally means goat sucker. Because the creature goes around sucking out blood from livestock. So the most common description of the chupacabra is that of a reptile-like creature said to have, leathery or scaly greenish gray skin and sharp spines and sometimes quills. It is said to be approximately 3 to 4 feet high and stands and hops like a kangaroo. So another common description of the chupacabra is a strange breed of a wild dog. So this form is like hairless, has a pronounced spinal ridge, pronounced eye sockets, fangs, and claws. Unlike conventional predators, the chupacabra is said to drain all of the animal's blood and sometimes organs, usually through 3 holes in the shape of a downwards pointing triangle and all through 1 or 2 holes. Now, the chupacabra is an urban legend, and this isn't really so much research on the actual folklore and myth of the chupacabra. This is research on the explanation and like why people believe in it. And so I know it's a fantasy middle grade book. Tehler isn't going to be talking about why people believe in the chupacabra. She's going to be pretending it's a real thing. But I do have to say, I did research and it's such an interesting story to me that I have to talk about it. All right. So, like I said, there are two sort of beliefs on what the chupacabra looks like. The sort of more recent idea of what it looks like is the hairless dog. And I think that's what we're actually probably going to see in the book because the back cover of Paola Santiago, or is it the inside flap? One of those has what looks like a chupacabra puppy. and it's supposed to become one of Paola's sidekicks in the books. Okay, so like a little baby chupacabra is going to be one of her sidekicks and friends. Okay, now that's sort of the more recent idea of what it looks like, a strange breed of a wild dog. Most accounts of these ideas of the chupacabra is, either dogs, coyotes, or foxes are affected by mange, which is a type of skin disease caused by parasite mites. And that's the one explanation of the urban legend. Now, the origin of the chupacabra, super interested to me. Okay, so in March 1995 in Puerto Rico, 8 sheep are discovered dead. They each have 3 puncture wounds in the chest and are believed to be completely drained of blood. Today, most people believe that that was the work of some sort of crazy satanic cult. But people in Puerto Rico, they believed that it was probably like some sort of monster that was draining blood from these creatures. And Puerto Rican comedian Silverio Perez at the time is credited with coining the term chupacabra soon after the incidents were reported to the press. And that kind of makes sense. A goat sucker is a term totally created by a comedian.
Definitely.
Now, all of this again happened in March.
March of what year?
Like I said, 1995. All right. In August, a supposed eyewitness named Madeline Tolentino reported seeing the creature near the Puerto Rican town of Canovanas. Canovanas, where 150 animals and pets were reported dead. So from there, the chupacabra became a legend that has been accused of murdering livestock in Mexico, Maine, Argentina, and so many other places, okay? But what's really interesting to me, in March, people first started to believe in the chupacabra, but in August of 1995 is when we first got, an eyewitness account and description of what it looks like. And that description from Madeline Tolentino accounts to the sort of more aquatic idea of what the chupacabra looks like, the one that I said has leathery, scaly, greenish gray skin. And that's the sort of more popular interpretation, not the sort of dog one that we're seeing in Paola Santiago. All right. Now get this. All right.
Okay.
So there was this guy named Benjamin Radford. He did 5 years of research and he eventually wrote a book tracking the chupacabra. What he discovered was that in July 1995, after the March incident, but before Madeline Tolentino came up with her idea of what it looks like, a movie came out. And this movie is called Species. It's a B movie where basically scientists combine a woman and an alien, and then the woman alien she's like looks like a woman, but she can transform into an alien. So she starts seducing men and then turning into an alien so she can try to like give birth to alien babies. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a B movie, okay? But in the movie, the alien that the woman can turn into looks exactly like Madeline Tolentino's original description of the chupacabra. And so almost every accusation or description of the chupacabra has been traced back or originated to Tolentino's report. So basically, the chupacabra is just an alien creature from a 1995 B movie. And the combination of that, some random satanic cult that said something in March of 1995, and, dogs and wolves and coyotes that get a type of skin disease, all that, it's like combined into this crazy urban legend where people are like, oh yeah, the chupacabra goat sucker is gonna like suck all your goat's blood. That to me is just like, wow. I just
Yeah, it went from being like this random thing to becoming something so big, but something just so silly. That's pretty wild. Yeah, so I did some research as well, but it was mainly just on the kind of chapters. And in the chapters, I'm gonna go on my usual Diego rant, taking information from both this a couple of reviews around the place, and some research on obviously La Llorona, and some other things that appeared in the chapter. I'm just gonna give you a quick Diego style plot overview, right? So we already know that Dante is the love interest from the first chapter. That's clear. we obviously know that there's something magical going on with the slipper that Dante is holding, right? So what I'm thinking is that the slipper is from the grandma next door. So I'm thinking we get something kind of like Stormrunner, where the grandma next door is actually the protector. So then the grandma next door kind of gives them the magical stuff, right? The magical slipper, and using the magical slipper and maybe other things, kind of like the weapons, like you know the classic thing where like you get all your weapons and then you go off on this quest and something, and like they send her after Emma, who we already know is drowning, right? That's pretty obvious from the first couple chapters that that Emma like disappears kind of, because we see Paola have a dream in which this hand is wearing Emma's ruby ring and kind of like dragging her down, and it's from what we know of like books like this, those kind of dreams usually become reality. So Emma disappears, the neighbor protector next door gives them weapons, and they set off on a quest to go find Emma. So along this quest, they have to like face probably El Cuco, right? And we got La Chupacabra, and then probably the final boss level is La Llorona herself, right?
And there's also going to be some other monsters, but I can talk about some research I did on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe some research on some other monsters, right? So then they got to face these monsters, but we need some kind of like boo or I'm just trying to think of some other examples, like guides. You know what I mean? Like what was the one in Race to the Sun? They had a guide who was a lizard.
Was it Mr. Ozzy? I don't know.
Yes, it
I
was
need to
Mr.
reread
Ozzy.
that.
All right. So then basically, there has to be this kind of like guide or something that has
I
to.
think that's Dante's grandma, isn't it? Like she gives them the weapons and tells them what to
Yeah,
do.
but I don't think the grandma can actually like go on the quest with them, right?
Well, I
So
don't think
I'm
she's going
predicting.
to. It's going to be more like a Chiron situation where like they
Yeah, yeah.
explain everything
I
at the
don't.
beginning
I
and then they
I
tell you to go on the
disagree
quest.
though, because in the Chiron situation, like they get like this whole like this briefing, and they kind of know what's up, and they have two experienced people. However, all three of these people are completely. Oh well, all two of these people, because we only have Dante and Paola kind of looking after Emma, right? Both of these people are unexperienced, right? So and whenever there's a quest, there's always has to be some sort of like trio of some sort, right? So I assume we're gonna get some kind of like mystical guide in a Boo Mr. Ozzy style, right? Don't know what he or she is gonna be, right? But this guide kind of like guides them along. But I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that the guide is evil.
Can I reread you like something from the review?
Oh yeah, sure thing. Go go go.
And are guided by a sarcastic, ghostly girl who might have ulterior motives for them. There you go.
Okay, so exactly what I said, except ghostly girl. So there is this ghost. We know from this review. There is a ghost. And if it says she might have ulterior motives, I don't know, but I feel it. I have a gut feeling. Definitely ulterior motives, right? So I'm thinking they face all these monsters. They of course find the kids, the band of kids fighting off against them. I think they might have some interaction with the bands of kids, but they're definitely not like taking the band of kids with them to the boss fight, right? Because that's just like cheating. So maybe they like kind of learn a bunch of stuff from the band of kids. And the ghost girl leads them straight to La Llorona, right? But then the ghost girl kind of betrays them, and they're stuck fighting off La Llorona. And off some other intuition, I'm gonna go ahead and say this has to do something with the stars, because
Mhm.
she was star watching on the river, right? And we obviously know that from every single from every single Rick Riordan book ever, that everything is based on like summer, fall, solstices, eclipse, lunar events. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that there's some kind of like um astronomical connection to whatever's going on, like to the quest has like an astronomical related deadline. Either there's some sort of astronomical monster, or there's some sort of astronomical explanation or something, but there definitely
Mhm.
has to be something astronomical related. And I think it will end with them retrieving Emma as well. But I feel like in order for it not to be, because I think we've been told that this is a series,
Hmm.
I believe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna start a series. Yeah.
So I definitely think that Paula might have some sort of conflict that will lead us into the second book.
Hmm. And I also want to add another thing from the review that says there are moments where Paola's triumph is truly in doubt, and other instances when the villains are almost sympathetic. So speaking of sympathetic, I'm thinking La Llorona. I think, yeah, La Llorona. She's definitely going to remind us of. Geez, I'm forgetting the name, but the main villain from, yeah, from Arusha, the Song of Death.
Yeah, I forget her name too, but yeah, we might see something like that where it's kind of just like a misunderstanding in the legend.
Hmm. And we all know, like, La Llorona, she was basically like, I mean, there are different versions of the myth, but the main source is she's like drowned her kids. The one I like is she drowned her kids to get back at her cheating husband, and then she's like, "Oh wait, that was a mistake," and she's like really sad about it for the rest of her life
Really?
as a ghost, and she like commits suicide. She becomes a ghost, and then she starts like drowning other kids, and so she might be like, so I think that we're definitely gonna be feel sympathy for her because she's like she accidentally drowned her kids, and she's like so sad about that. So I think we're definitely gonna be sympathetic to her.
Yeah, yeah, there's no way La Llorona is like all evil. I feel like we're gonna have a lot of like moments where we think that like we got this myth figured out or something, but it's not really what it seems like, if you know what I mean by that. And yeah, I'm gonna let Samuel I heard he had a lot of research, so I'm just gonna let him get to that. But at the end of this episode, you can very much expect me to make some wild predictions, and let's see which one of them has the
Anyways, like I mentioned before, she's gonna get a chupacabra puppy. But one thing we definitely noticed in these chapters is Paola really wants a dog. So I'm just saying, she gets a chupacabra puppy sidekick. She really wants a dog. That's like character growth and stuff. So I'm
Wait.
just saying,
How
maybe
do we
she
know
like
that? How do we know that she gets a chupacabra puppy?
Stephanie Lurie said it like on Twitter that there's like a chupacabra puppy, and also
Oh,
I'm pretty sure like one of the Reed Riordan things said that she gets like a sidekick for a chupacabra. So, anyways, I'm just saying, definitely getting a chupacabra puppy sidekick, and she might be able to even keep it afterwards after the adventure if it's like able to disguise itself as a regular puppy. So just saying, she's gonna get a dog. But anyways, I know you kind of talked about El Cuco, which is basically just the Hispanic boogeyman. But there's a hilarious, children's lullaby about him, which is "Duérmete niño, duérmete ya, que viene el coco y te comerá."
Jesus. Duérmete ya que viene el cuco y te comerá. Translates roughly to go to sleep or the boogeyman's gonna come and swallow you alive.
Uh, I was gonna say it more directly translated, but yeah, that's correct, Diego. Another monster that's gonna come in this book is La Mano Pachona. So basically, there was this man unjustly accused of robbery. For his crime, his hand was cut off. So the man swears to avenge himself of all those who accused him. And when he died, those who wrongly accused him were murdered by a furry hand.
Jesus.
So basically, it's just this furry hand. Like basically every monster, it's used to like scare, but like especially every monster is gonna be in Paola Santiago. It's used to scare children. And it's like basically it's told, hey, like if you don't behave, you're gonna wake up in the middle of the night and there's gonna be a furry hand touching you. So yeah, uh, which obviously has some sort of similarities to other people who might want to touch you in the middle of the night. That parents would rather just say, hey, beware of the furry hand or like the hairy hand. So it obviously has some sort of symbolism or representation of more scary real world dangers, but it's just kind of like parents are like, hey, if you misbehave, the hairy hands will come get you in the middle of the night. Basically, guy is wrongly accused of crime. His hand gets cut off, and his hand seek revenge on his enemies. So yeah, that's that's something that is going to be in
Pretty
Paola
pretty
Santiago.
weird.
And speaking of sympathetic villains, that is kind of a sympathetic, like almost sympathetic villain. Like, yeah, he shouldn't have been unjustly accused. If I got my hand cut off too, well, if I got my hand cut off unjustly, I would probably hope that my hand gets my revenge for me. Like I don't want to murder anyone, but if my disembodied hand that shouldn't have gotten cut off in the first place starts killing people, I think I would be okay with that. Is that okay to say?
No, I think it's okay.
There is going to be a sheriff subplot, so let me also read from the review, okay? Mejia's middle grade debut follows the Rick Riordan series formula: a driven and conflicted heroine, a trio of tightly knit friends, a fate of the world plot, and immersive mythology that introduces some readers to a different culture and welcomes other readers into their own cultural history. She also imbues this series opener with vulnerability and fierceness. Paola is an often angry girl who bucks up against her mother's tradition. She's tired of being short on money because her mother accepts IOUs or eggs as payment for her curandera healing and tarot services. She's angry at Dante, who's been slowly pulling away from the group to join the cooler soccer team. She's angry at the local police officer who discredited her for her theories about Emma's disappearance because of the color of her skin and her socioeconomic status, and the shame she felt when he treated her with disdain. This anger often propels Paola on her hero's journey. Basically, we learned a lot from that, but what I specifically want to mention is there's going to be this mean racist sheriff who Paola's going to be like, yo, I'm a big believer in science, but my friend Emma got stolen by La Llorona. And he's like, well, I'm a Texan and I don't believe in Mexican folklore. You are a little kid and you're Mexican, so uh so that's going to be a subplot, and I definitely hope that's resolved where the sheriff has something bad happen to him at the end.
Definitely.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to happen, but I just am really hoping it does because I haven't even started reading about this sheriff, but just from the review, he sounds like a total jerk. So let's hope bad
Definitely.
stuff happens to him. hmm So, Diego, you said you had some crazy out there predictions that you wanted to say.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll start with this. Cactuses in the desert happening. Okay? They're in the desert near a river. There will be cactuses, and something will happen related to cactuses that will play some sort of part. Number two, the algae is going to mean something. Because there ain't no way that they just talked about the algae for like 8,000 minutes and nothing's going to happen with it.
Okay, but you're
I'm
just
telling
making
you.
predictions about. This isn't a crazy prediction. This is just basic storytelling. This is like if something's set up in the first act,
Mm.
it's gonna like
Mm, mm,
show up
mm,
in the
mm, mm,
second or
mm.
third act. That isn't a crazy prediction.
Okay. Okay. Ready? First crazy prediction. Algae thing makes sense. The cactus thing also makes sense because they're in a desert.
That one is
It
a
makes
kind of
sense.
a crazy prediction, but go ahead.
Okay, okay, ready? Ready? Now, the ghost girl actually is Emma.
Hmm. Okay, that is pretty crazy. I doubt that's gonna come to
But
fruition.
yeah, I doubt that one's going to come to fruition. But you know what is? The crazy girl is one of La Llorona's children. The ghost girl. She's one of her children. Because I don't think it'll be the who's the person that drowned in the river? Marissa. I don't
hmm
know if it will be Marissa. It
Oh,
could
it's
be.
definitely. I don't think it's gonna be her at all. I don't. I think
Yeah,
your.
yeah.
I think your prediction that it's the La Llorona's children actually makes sense. You want to hear an
Yeah, it makes
actual
sense.
crazy prediction? See,
Okay, okay, here.
this is what your crazy prediction should be. Like Emma is going to be La Llorona the whole time. That's a crazy prediction.
Okay, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty out there. Okay, I got you. The tarot cards that the mom dropped at the beginning will return and they will foresee the future. There will be some sort of astronomical event that will cause ghosts to rise out of the ground and eat people.
So Ghostbusters. That's
Yes.
basically the third act of Ghostbusters.
Okay, ready? Now, number 4 is that there will be some kind of space time portals being opened up in this general area that will cause the sheriff to be teleported into an alternate dimension.
Can we end this episode now?
No. One last one. The moon is going to become a person and talk to Paola. And that's it. If any of those happens, I will be a genius.
Okay. But some of them just follow basic storytelling predictions. That's not
Okay, fine.
genius.
One of my crazy ones, if one of those comes true, I'll be pretty
You
happy.
made a pretty good guess. That's what
Yes,
we'll.
I made some pretty good guesses.
Mhm.
I'm thinking my top 2 guesses are moon portals and La Llorona, her being the child of the ghost.
Whatever, man.
It makes sense. It makes sense on some level.
And remember to come on Wednesday for our 1 year anniversary episode.
Yeah. Do you remember to do that?
Yeah, and also we did a collaboration with Floor 600 on their
Yeah.
podcast. So I highly that just came out Wednesday. So I highly recommend you go and
Check
check
it out.
out their podcast. Look up Floor 600 in your podcatcher or whatever. And then they have a
Podcasting app.
collaboration. Yeah, well, podcatcher is the word for it. And then they have a
Oh,
collaboration with the
really?
Half Blue Report episode. Yeah. So go do
Sweet.
that.
Yeah, definitely check it out. We had lots of fun recording it. Um, and I think you'll have lots of fun listening to it.
Agreed. That's it for this episode of the Half Blood
Okay.
Report. Diego, how can one contact this podcast?
You can follow the show on Twitter at Half Report. You can also find us on Instagram at The Half Blood Report or email the show at thehalfbloodreport@gmail.com. We also have a website where you can do pretty much all of that, and that's thehalfbloodreport.com. Okay, that said, it's time for credits. Our theme music is actually by me,
I do our editing.
and my co host here is Samuel, and I'm Diego.
This is the Half Blood Report podcast, the only HBR that matters. Survive till next week.